My next guest is a candidate for Congress in Florida. She is running in the Democratic Party against an incumbent member of Congress whose name may be familiar to you, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Jen Perelman is an attorney. She is a second-generation native Floridian. She lives there now, and she is, as I say, running in the Democratic primary in her district. So without further ado, first of all, Jen Perelman, thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me on.
A pleasure. And obviously, the first question anyone like me will ask you is, why are you running this race? Why are you running for Congress? Why are you challenging Debbie Wasserman Schultz?
I would say that in terms of my participation politically, it's been my whole life. I've been involved in politics forever. I've campaigned, worked on numerous campaigns in the past. And she has been my congresswoman for 15 years. And throughout that time, and in the beginning, I think that she probably was well-intended. I do believe that. But over time, she has slowly and surely been taking so much money from such corporate and special interests that it's obvious that she's not doing what's in the best interest of her constituents. And after 2016, when she became much more noted around the country, it just became obvious that we're seeing this wave of progressivism and non-corporatist candidates that have been able to get through. So I felt somewhat inspired by that wave to actually go ahead and do this. And I just think that the timing is really right. I just feel like it's almost a perfect storm of things coming together that's going to lend itself to actual progress.
So I think a lot of people came away from the 2016 controversies around the Democratic primaries and so on. I think even, obviously there were a lot of heated emotions in that primary between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. But even aside from the partisan feelings people might have one way or another about either Bernie or Hillary. And again, I should mention I was Bernie's head writer in that campaign, so you could argue I'm not neutral. But whatever your feelings, I think a lot of people came away feeling that the DNC was anything but fair and neutral in that process, and that a big part of the reason why was Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So on the other hand, she had a lot of powerful people up to and including the then President of the United States sticking up for her. So she obviously has friends. Why would you say that she's not looking out for the best interests of your district? That's Florida's 23rd Congressional District.
I mean, we could go down the list of the people that she takes money from. And one of the biggest problems that I have is the amount of money she takes from Big Sugar. And let me preface this with, it isn't just her, actually. The Florida Democratic Party gets a substantial amount of money from Big Sugar. And the problem is that we're actually subsidizing Big Sugar. So we're subsidizing them to do the wrong things instead of incentivizing them to do the right things. And a big part of that is connected to that they have bought a significant amount of favor in our Congress. So Debbie takes money from Big Sugar. She takes money from payday lenders, which are unbelievably predatory and definitely specifically target communities of color. And it's just one of those things that's just very it's just not right. It's just not right for her to be taking money from the exact predators that are purposefully trying to keep people down. And then we could get into that she calls marijuana a gateway drug. And I think that's tied to taking money from the alcohol industry or private prisons. She wanted to put a private prison facility here, right, not too far from my house. It was a private immigration detention center that she had signed off on. And so when you're taking money from all those sources, I just think that it's not possible for you to be serving two places at once. So either you're serving them or you're serving us, but I just don't see how it can be both.
And again, we're talking with Jen Perelman, who is running against Debbie Wasserman Schultz in the primary in their district. I have to say, I learned a lot in the last 2 minutes of your comments there that I didn't know about Debbie and about her history. Obviously, I wasn't pleased with her, as I think my past remarks suggested, with her performance in 2016, but the Big Sugar, besides being a big employer, is promoting practices and nutritional choices that are not healthy for our children. I wrote a whole series of articles about the payday lending industry. It's despicable. Nobody, certainly not someone who represents themselves as a progressive or Democrat, should take money from them. So a number of the things you told me are troubling. So tell me a little bit, if you would, about the 23rd Congressional District in Florida. What's it like? What are the demographics, industry, anything you want to tell me about your district?
Yeah, well, the key thing to know is that it's exceptionally gerrymandered. And I wish I had a picture to show right now, but I don't. But it's this very strange shape of cut out pieces and portions that, essentially our representative, Debbie, works in conjunction with the local representatives, and they kind of pick and choose so that like the district below us is a safe red and our district is a safe blue. So we're very gerrymandered blue, which, and we have closed primaries. So that's the reason that she's been sitting there as long as she has. I mean, people say, how is it that she keeps getting elected? Well, when you have a gerrymandered district and a closed primary, it doesn't take that much for somebody to stay in their seat. So it's hard enough to get people to come out and vote in a general. It's even harder in a primary. And our district, the demographics are very interesting. And, there's definitely a good diverse mix. You have a substantial African-American community, including, then you also have a Haitian community. We have a Latino community. There's obviously a lot of elderly, and there's a very strong Jewish community here. And what tends to happen in primaries is that the primary voters are your super voters, and those tend to be you're more educated, you're more affluent. Those are generally the people that are more participatory in primaries. And so our district, while is diverse, it definitely has a leaning toward, I would say, a Jewish percentage that does come out in strong numbers and votes in the primary.
So, well, that's interesting. And it does sound diverse. It does sound like, forgive me for saying this, your last name may not be a total liability either, or mine for that matter. But that said, now a lot of people would say, well, why primary a Democrat? I talk to a lot of people or encounter a lot of people who say, vote blue no matter who. Why should we, invest energy in challenging Democrats with primaries? A lot of people have different answers to that. What's yours?
Well, I think it all goes to what you view as the real struggle we're having. And I no longer see it as blue versus red. And I know that's not necessarily a popular opinion to have amongst mainstream and more establishment Democrats. But the reality is our fight is corporate and non-corporate. And if we're wanting to sort of unravel the tentacles of the oligarchy that has taken over this country, and I mean all parts of this country, the red and blue dichotomy seems a little bit false to me. So when you're talking about any blue, no matter who, that would work if all the blue people stood for the same principles. So if everybody that was blue was a non-corporatist, and everybody that was blue supported Medicare for all, and everybody that was blue supported a Green New Deal, then I might be inclined to say, okay, yeah, blue no matter who, because they're all working for the same things. But we know that's not true. There are way too many corporate Democrats. And while they might seem more left on certain social issues, they are not helping in terms of narrowing the income inequality that is really the bane of existence for most people in this country. So even though they're blue, they're not acting blue. They're not going with what we would consider to be Democratic Party principles that we had for, however many decades. So, it's just blue isn't blue anymore.
So, no, blue isn't blue anymore. That's an interesting phrase. That's actually, that might have legs, as we say. But, okay, so Jen Perelman, candidate in Florida's 23rd district. What should people, either in your district or the people listening to this program, the vast majority of whom are not in your district, I would say, what should people know about you? What would you like people to know about you as a person, as a candidate?
Well, the key thing about me is that this is not a career move for me. I was actually asked to do this. This is not anything I ever thought that I would be doing. I was always more of a policy behind the scenes person. I have done a lot of volunteer work doing policy research and writing. So it never really occurred to me that this was something I would be doing, primarily because, I don't lie and I can't be bought. And it just never really seemed like there was a place for somebody that's a non-politician to get in. And like I said, it seems like there's more of an opening for that now. And as far as me, I mean, my dream would be to live in an artist co-op in Asheville and have chickens and goats and bees. And, I like to do crafty stuff. But unfortunately, I have a really good head for policy and I'm able to do this. And it's a privilege to be able to do this. And so I say that I'm lending my privilege because there are just way too many people that can't take 2 years of their life and spend it raising money and dealing with all of this nonsense for, to get elected to a position that they're now not even going to be able to actually do. So it's a very complicated system. And so I'm in a position where I can lend my privilege. And so that's what I'm doing. And as far as me, my background is I'm an attorney, and my area that I'm most interested in is criminal justice. I did criminal defense out of law school. That was actually the favorite that I've done since being a lawyer. I've done other things since then, but really I care a lot about criminal justice reform. I care a lot about justice in general, whether it's social or economic or environmental. And these are the things that motivate me. And when I see people that are in the establishment and there's this certain level of elitism, where there's this entitlement that somehow these people are just entitled to just sit there and do what they're doing. And how dare anybody challenge that? And that just makes me want to challenge them even more. I find it so infuriating that they have that sort of attitude. So I feel like I'm somebody who always stands up for the underdog, and I'm always somebody who is able to fight for other people. And I'm just in a position where I can do this.
Well, I got to say, and maybe parenthetically, that I couldn't agree with you more about this attitude that a congressional seat or a Senate seat or anything else is an entitlement, or as opposed to when people express outrage that they're facing a primary challenge, well, then you don't like democracy very much, because that's democracy. If you don't want to actually run for the job you've got, then maybe politics isn't your calling. I don't know. All that said, I know you've been endorsed by a brand new Congress. They're good folks. I know them well. I've known them for years. So how's it looking for you? Where can people learn more about you, for example? Where can people find out about your campaign?
We are actually about to launch a brand new website. We've had our website. We're still going to be gen2020.com. We'd love for people to go and sign up. People can volunteer from anywhere, whether it's text banking or just helping with social media. So people can help all around the country. And we're wanting small monthly donations. I mean, we won't take corporate money. I love that we're small dollar funded. I love the idea of Bernie supporters being dollar monthly donors to help take out the person who cheated Bernie in 2016. I call it poetic justice. And, basically any type of spreading the word and telling people that we're here. So it's gen2020.com. And then we're Twitter and Instagram at genfl23. And just follow us and spread. The more attention we get, the more likes we get, the more money we get. It all helps.
And I have to say, we can't go down, we may not have time to go down policy by policy, but this looks like a very solid, progressive platform as described on your website, whether it involves healthcare, which you mentioned earlier, criminal justice, economic reform. In fact, before I let you go, I'm going to look at military foreign affairs, the situation with Israel, economic reform, reducing inequality. Yeah, it all sounds good to me. So it's gen2020.com, GEN, no, not two N's, 2020.com. Anything you want to say in closing?
No, I mean, I really feel like this is such a privilege. I've really been enjoying this. I've been doing it for a year. And the key thing about our campaign is really this premise that congressional representation is a term of service and not a career. And so we've launched something that we're calling GenCore, and essentially it's my volunteer army, and we do community service all throughout the district. So all of the GenCore volunteers, yes, we spend time canvassing, and there will be a certain amount of phone banking, but we do everything in the community, from working the mobile school pantry to veteran nursing homes to beach cleanups to wherever we're needed. And that's really the key thing. We want to show this district what it's supposed to look like.
Well, that also sounds good. As we learned in the Bernie 2016 campaign, I'm recording here in West Virginia this week, where West Virginia can't wait. A number of people are really turning into reality the idea that a campaign is not about one person, but it's about people coming together to make their lives better. So I congratulate you for that. And again, website is gen2020.com. Jen Perelman, candidate for Congress. Thanks for coming on the program, and best of luck to you in the campaign.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.